Okay, it shows me that it's running. Let's make sure. Hold on one sec, sorry. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you want me to have Mike read his, or do you want to read yours?
He can go first.
Okay, we're up and running. Mike, you're nominated to go first.
All right. So the first letter I have was dated March 24th, 2021. It says, regarding rezone change to the Leslie's Mobile Home Park. Dear Mike Eggett, Planning Commission, and Council members, we went to the hearing on March 23rd, 2021. We were in tears as we watched one after the other tell the commission that they had nowhere else to go. They love their community and neighbors. Their lives will be crushed along with their homes if the rezoning is approved. They have no affordable places to live besides Leslie's and no way to move their trailers. They are helpless and will become homeless if the rezoning is approved. I find it hard to believe that Riverdale City would sacrifice their poor citizens for so-called progress. You say that you have to be neutral, but can you turn a blind eye to human suffering that this rezoning would cause? It is very clear who has the power to save this community from the rezoning consequences. It will be a black eye on Riverdale City's reputation if they move to destroy this community by taking people out of their homes and making them homeless. Please don't recommend rezoning. Deeply concerned, Janine Bowthorpe, Alan Bowthorpe, owners of trailer number 29. That's the first letter. The second letter is dated March 26, 2021. It says, regarding a $234.50 lot rent increase at Leslie's Mobile Home Park. Attention, Mike Eggett, Riverdale Zoning Commission City Council. We are making you aware of this change because it comes only 3 days after the emotional hearing held on March 23, 2021. It is a huge increase for these good people. We feel because it was in such close proximity from the hearing date that this appears to not be just a coincidence. H&H 39th Street LLC has every legal right to do this. But we think that some things appear to be obvious in the form of a retaliatory strike against the good people of the park. Please take this into consideration when the rezoning vote is made. Once again, what does your heart tell you? Sincerely, Janine and Alan Bowthorpe. And that's what I have. Thank you. So Shaylee, you're up.
I don't know why it's...
You need to wait just a minute.
No, so I did, that's my old one. But it shows that it's on for me. Did you try to type something?
She's still showing me that it's turned on.
No, you're good. I'm gonna try it. You're good. So I got Elizabeth Wager. She says test.
What's that?
She said test. So I have one.
Oh, so it did come in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just one. Were you logged in? Were
Are you
the one that just
Elizabeth?
sent that?
Yeah. Okay,
So it
yes.
did
So I
work?
got Elizabeth's comment.
I can also read email messages that you sent to me, Shaylee, if that's what I need to do as well.
If you want to, you
I
can.
could pull them up and read them
It
if for
looks
some
like-
reason you're not
oh, mine's
accessing them.
unmuted. It looks like it's working so far, so I can if you want me to.
Okay, great.
Read the emails.
Yeah, I have 3 of them, and then there's one on the older video. I would just have to pull it though. If I could find it.
Is there comments on YouTube?
There
as well?
was. I just, for some reason, cannot find them now. So, hold on one sec, sorry. I'm going to try to find the other comments. Mike, do you just want to read one of them for me while I do this?
Let me pull up the first one that came in, basically the chronologically oldest one. Okay, this is the first one that we received from a Jenny, I think it's Nagy or Nagy. It was received on April 12th, 2021, and it was addressed as public comment, Planning Commission, April 13th, 21 to Shaylee Nay. It says, please read the public comment below at the Planning Commission meeting on April 13th, 21. Thank you. My name is Jenny, again, Nagy or Nagy, and I live at 14AT Bustong Street in Ogden, Utah. I asked the Planning Commission to please consider the following as you make your recommendation about proposed rezone at Leslie's Mobile Home Park. First, when asked about harmony with the general plan, the rezone application states, in quotations, Riverdale City's general housing plan calls for safe, accessible, sanitary, and aesthetically pleasing homes. The gentrification of the property and development of new multifamily housing will help reach those goals, end quote. This quote is taken out of context and is a misappropriation. The full quote from the general plan states, quote, ensure an adequate supply of safe, accessible, sanitary, and aesthetically pleasing moderate income housing integrated throughout the city in various locations and consistent with the needs of all segments of the population, end quote. Residents have made it very clear that loss of the park would leave them without affordable housing options in Riverdale. The general plan states an explicit goal to provide affordable housing for, quote, all segments of the population, unquote. This provides strong support that maintaining the mobile home park zoning is more consistent with the general plan. Second, I want to remind you of the Utah legislators' joint resolution encouraging manufacturing mobile home parks as affordable housing. It references HJR 002 from 2008. This resolution states, quote, the legislature of the state of Utah recognizes manufactured housing as an important part of affordable housing choices and options and encourages including manufactured housing in local land use planning and development, end quote. And then she says, thank you. She did provide to it attached a section of that resolution and highlighted a few areas, the highlighted parts of that resolution. And if you would like a copy of this document, we can provide it to you at a later date. But she's highlighted under one of the whereases, it says nearly 2/3 of the over 80,000 Utahns who live in manufactured homes are senior citizens, whereas the median household income of individuals living in manufactured homes is approximately 60% of the overall Utah median income. And then she skips down and she's highlighted, whereas manufactured housing is a largely unsubsidized affordable housing ownership choice. 2 lines down, whereas cities and towns should foster stable neighborhoods with a variety of affordability levels and housing choices, including the preservation of manufactured housing communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the legislature of the state of Utah recognizes manufactured housing as an important part of affordable housing choices and options, and encourages including manufactured housing in local land use planning and development. And that is the extent of her comments. Thank you.
So since I'm on the live feed, I was not able to repair the last 2 comments that were on there. So if you were watching the live feed, I remember, was it Jennifer? If you could re-comment those for me or just send me an email. My email's on the whiteboard on the YouTube. But I will go ahead and read the 2 letters that I have. So this one is from Heather Waite. To Riverdale City Planning Commission, my name is Heather Waite. I'm a resident of Riverdale City and a neighbor and a friend to those who live in Leslie's Trailer Park. In the event that this land is rezoned and redeveloped, I propose that it is fair and reasonable to require compensation for those who will lose all of the equity in these trailers because they are unable to be moved. I know one of the families, a single mother and her 2 children, that are residents of the park. This struggling young woman received an inheritance from the passing of her mother that allowed her to purchase and remodel the trailer for her family. She will lose everything but the clothes on her back and what little she can put in a truck when she walks away from that trailer. I am sure her story is not unique to this difficult case. In the event that this land is rezoned and redeveloped, my request is that the landowner be required to give enough compensation to these people to help them get started in a new location, to pay for a month's rent plus deposit dues does not seem to be unreasonable for those who are unable to take their home with them. For many of the people in this park, life is already unfair. I call upon owners of this land to be humane and offer some assistance to those in need as they proceed with their plans. I call upon Riverdale City to take this suggestion to heart before granting their zoning changes and supporting the eviction of the tax-paying citizens of Riverdale. Thank you for your consideration. Okay, so I have a letter and also an attachment, so if the Planning Commission would like me to send it to them, I can. This is from Francesca Blanc. Dear members of Riverdale City Planning Commission, we are writing to you regarding the rezoning request of Leslie's Mobile Home Park located at 671 West, 4400 South, Riverdale, Utah, 84405. These residents have been long-term members of Riverdale City community. They work in your area and they shop at your local stores. Their children are in your school system and they pay their share of income and local taxes. This mobile home community is naturally occurring affordable housing, meaning no subsidies are used by the residents to pay their lot rent. We are aware that a March Planning Commission meeting, residents spoke against the rezoning of the property from mobile home park to multifamily home development. We support multifamily residential developments to meet the needs of housing scarcity in our state, but we are strongly against displacing community living and naturally occurring affordable housing to make way for market rate housing that is not affordable for many residents living in your city and county. The metropolitan Ogden-Clearfield area's fair market rent value for two-bedroom apartment is $1,024, meaning a person has to earn $19.69 per hour to afford this apartment. Affordable housing means renters and homeowners should pay no more than 30% of their income on rent, mortgage, and utilities per month. Weber County renters pay most of their income on rent. 71.5% of all Weber County renters are low-income individuals, and a majority of them are cost-burdened, meaning they pay more than 30% of their income on rent. Two-thirds of extremely low-income renters in Weber County, making less than 30%, are severely cost-burdened, meaning they pay more than 50% of their income on rent. Additionally, Utah Housing Coalition is very concerned that the park owners sent a rent increase notice 2 days after the March meeting. The rent increase is about 42% of residents' current rent. This is a tactic nothing more but to move and push residents out of the park because such rent increase imposes a significant financial burden. Most residents will probably have to choose between paying for food and other essentials or paying for rent, and as advocates often say, rent always eats first. Thank you for your consideration. And that is all I have. And I got one from Steve Brooks that says testing, but I'll keep an eye out. If I get any more, I'll let you guys know on YouTube.
Okay, guys, we can go back into, now that we've heard all the comments and public discussion, let's get into the request. Was it you, Rick, that was talking?
I just made a comment that I am concerned with the R4 zone being in compliance with the general plan of that area, where the R4 is medium to high density. It does allow for apartment buildings and things like that. Medium density, which the plan, or the city plan shows for, is more for townhouses and things like that, which would probably be more in line with like an R2 or an R3 zone rather than an R4. That's my only concern.
I have to agree with you, Rick. To do R3, they've got to have 40% coverage. And so 40% has to be the buildings, including garages, 1-to-1 ratio, 40% open space, and 20% hard space. So that leaves you with the parking. That's all parking.
I also agree with Rick too, and Inspires.
I have a question. Is the R3, I thought I read that it said that it was 50%, and R4 is 60%, could be used for building. Did I read that wrong?
You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk. R3 is 40% at a 1-to-1 ratio for building massing, including accessory buildings and garages. R4 is 50% and at a ratio of 1-to-2. And R5 is 60% with a ratio of 1-to-3, or 3-to-1. I guess I'm saying that backwards, but you can triple your square footage of building in an R5, double it in an R4, and it has to be 1-to-1 in an R3.
Okay, I must have read that index wrong then, because I thought that R4 was 1-to-2, and that R3 was, no, excuse me, yeah, forget that, you're right.
And then obviously your open green space shifts, right? So in an R3 it's 40, and then it's 30 in an R4, and then it's 20 in an R5. So yeah.
And if you look in our packet, talks about going R4, that's medium to high density zone. And I don't think there's the space there for it. If you go R3, it seems to fit in there a little bit better. But that would be another discussion.
Yeah, you notice that it says there are two areas which are R4 in the city, and one of those areas is considered, is for does hold apartment buildings on that R4 area.
Yeah, over by Romer Park.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the area behind Bed Bath & Beyond, that strip mall. I just think when you look at the city's master plan, our general plan, it's not in our master plan. If you look at the master plan, it's not zoned for that.
That's my contention as well. Is the master plan doesn't call for high density.
No.
R4 could theoretically fit into it because it's medium to high density, but I think it's kind of pushing it a little bit.
One thing, just as part of this discussion, that Mr. Kobe has eloquently brought up when we've talked with the Planning Commission on a previous rezone we had on a completely different matter, is with rezone requests, not knowing what's being requested, you always have to look at all the uses that are part of that zone and expect the most intense or the maximum request, whether it's a permitted or conditionally used permitted request in that zone as a potential use. So although we might think we know what a rezone would do, we have to look at all the uses in that zone and say, okay, at the very most intense use, or I don't want to say worst case scenario, that's the wrong term, but the most intense use for the property, what does that look like? Because that is obviously available in an R4, R3, whatever zoning category you look at when it's being requested. So I thought that was interesting guidance for the city council.
So Mike, is it safe to say like R4 is a medium to high density zone? That's the zoning. So whether that's whatever they put in, it could be.
As I read the land use plan and look at it, it seems to be more of a zone that is there to facilitate high density. The medium density use in the R4 would be more if it was like a more intense use of townhomes. That could be maybe construed as a medium density depending on how the zoning standards are used. But again, theoretically with an R4, a lot of the uses that you look at an R4 and you then try to overlap with the general plan seem to want R4 designations for, your more intense apartment uses and a lot of the other housing uses that would be allowed in the R4 zone. So it leans more towards it being a high density designation in the general plan and the master land use plan than it does medium density, absent a shift towards a townhome configuration. And even then, with a townhome, if an R4, maybe you don't use the full 50%, that the R4 might be allotted, and that's how it feels more of a medium density. So that's the one. It's kind of a weird shifting sand designation that the general plan has identified based on how it's been used in other areas in the community. it may be worth Chair Spires to invite Mr. Steiner to say a few things if you'd like to, representing the client. We haven't heard. I thought I had. He may want to say a few things.
I was thinking that. Do you want to enlighten us, Mr. Steiner?
I can make a few comments. So we're thinking that the R4 fits with the way that the master plan says, for all the reasons that we talked about. I understand that also allows the really high density versus the medium density, and that's a medium density area. But it gives flexibility on what the landowner can do with the property moving forward. One of the things that constrains what they can do right now is the fact that trailers cannot be moved. They're not able to upgrade the park and the quality of the park. I heard some of the tenants complain about that, and there are problems in there. The city has cited the landowner many times with code violations, yet the landowner does not own the trailers and is not responsible for the trailers to repair those code violations or to bring it into compliance. And yet some responsibility falls back under the law when tenants don't comply. So then the landowner's only choice is to enforce the rules and to evict people, and then to remove those trailers and allow newer trailers to come in. And that's the process that has to go through. And this property is in a great location to have a little more density than it has now, or a different structure. And that's the reason for looking for the flexibility going forward. It's not outlined yet what will happen and when on the property as far as the property ownership group. But they would like the flexibility to be able to go, with a denser townhome or a lower density apartment type property. The R3 is very restrictive inside Riverdale City. There's not really something that kind of overlaps that would be considered medium density between the R3 and R4. It's like you have all been talking about, it's the lower R4 that allows for that flexibility. Anyway, that's where, the landowner really wants the flexibility to do something with the property, and their hands are tied in the current condition. And so this whole project emerged from the need to do something. We've had a lot of crime there. I say we, I'm representing the landowners. There's been a bunch of crime. I've been involved in situations where people will not serve notices without having two sheriffs present. And so it's been an ongoing problem. And the situation then is, from a landowner standpoint, is how do you comply with the city rules? How do you keep tenants paying rent? How do you keep a nice community of tenants in there? And because many of the tenants that spoke out against this have come to us and saying, yeah, we want you to get rid of so-and-so. But then they come in and say, oh, everyone's perfect friends over there. Well, there's problems in that park. And so I say that not because that's not your responsibility as the planning commission, but I'm trying to give context to the landowner needing to move in a direction with this property to be able to comply, to not have constant issues that they're trying to deal with. And it's not everyone in there. It's just a few situations. So anyway, that's kind of context for the need to have a zone change, to have flexibility in coming up with a future plan for the property. I'm willing to answer any questions about that, but like I said, there's not a specific plan yet. This whole zone situation was the initial step to try to decide what could be done.
But I think if we take the emotion out of it and just look at it as land use, just the land itself and the zoning itself, is R4 the best use when it's not part of the master plan?
Well, and what this gentleman was just saying about having flexibility. I think that's one of the things we do need to concern ourselves with, since there is no plan. We have to look at kind of, so to speak, worst case scenario that's allowed under that R4 zone. And, does that worst case scenario fit within the city's master plan? And whether or not that really works with what is planned for that area.
So I'm going to raise that question. Mr. Eggett, if you'll help me figure this out. I've been looking at let me get back here. I've been looking at the regulations for a R4. And am I correct in reading that it says that it's a 1,500 square foot for each additional dwelling unit for bachelor and bachelorette dwelling? So there are variants that you can add another 1,000 feet if there's excess of 4 occupants in the unit. But 1,500 square feet per unit. If that's correct, and we've got 4.62 acres, I just did some rough math. We've currently got 55, there are presently 55 mobile home units or spaces in the property. At 50%, and doing the rough math, we would be at least doubling the number of residents in that area. And if my numbers are correct, could even be close to tripling the amount of occupants in that area. I just did some rough numbers between 120 and 160 units at 1,500 square feet. I may be off on this, but is that a reasonable assessment?
Yeah, so looking at it, so when you go to the 10-90-4, and you look under one building dwelling single family, bachelor and bachelorette is more for dorms. It's like a dormitory use. In this case, you would just look at the first statement, which says 6,000 square feet plus 1,500 square feet for each additional dwelling unit. But yeah, if that's the math you ran, 6,000 square feet plus 1,500 square feet, that's that. Now you have to take into account that the constraining factor is the 50%, right? So 50% of 4.62 acres, that's the maximum, but then they could double stack whatever that square footage is. I'm just doing some quick math in my head. Let's say it's not quite 3 acres.
Plus 2.77 acres is 50%.
Okay, so yeah, 2.77.
43,560 in an acre.
Yeah.
So 120 times 2 is 240.
Yeah.
And divided by 1,500, I'm getting 160.
That's about where I was going to go. You're looking at about 120,000 square feet doubled is the maximum square footage of building you can put into it, and then you have to take that and you take out your first unit, which is 6,000 square feet, and then you divide what's left by 1,500 square feet, and that tells you how many total units they could have at that point. Yeah, that's the right math.
Okay. So we've got 55 units there now, and could potentially be near tripling what's presently used. So, just my observation.
I just want to say, we don't know we have no idea what they're going to build or what they're going to do.
Right.
Our job, we need to think about, they want to do a rezone, and does it fit with our general plan? Does the rezone they're asking for fit our plan? Our current master plan, does that fit? And if we look at the general plan, it's not in that use. Anybody?
Amy, are we ready for a motion?
Go for it.
I don't know if I'm ready. Hold on a second. I got to get back to where I was.
We got a
One
comment.
second, Rick. Sorry. I mean, Commissioner Herman.
Sorry, Rick.
So Adriana Robinson, she said, I completely agree. It is up to us as the homeowner to make our community the way that we need to make it. I completely agree. That's the comment I've had so far.
And also, on the YouTube stream, all of you folks here, we're not going to take any more public comments. We're going to dive in for the vote and conclusion of this. All right, Rick. Mr. Herman.
Sorry, I was looking at something else that I was following along with. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back to where I need to be. So, based on the fact that the R4 zone is medium to high density, and this area, according to our master plan, is medium density, as well as the fact that we don't have a plan in front of us showing what the landowner is planning on doing with this area, meaning that we need to consider the fact that of the highest use possible in that area under that zone. I don't feel that this complies with what our master plan is, and so I move that with this finding that we deny the rezone of the area H&H 39th Street LLC as the petitioner at approximately 671 West, 4400 South, the mobile home park, for this rezone request to an R4 zone at this time.
I second that.
Could I just amend that and make it known it's a recommendation to city council to do what you
Yes,
said?
yes, yes, and to make that as a recommendation to the city council.
Did we have a second?
Yeah,
Somebody said.
Steve Suzette.
Yeah.
Ms. Nye, will you poll the commissioners, please?
Commissioner Spires?
Aye.
Commissioner DeMar?
Aye.
Commissioner Herman?
Aye.
Commissioner Wingfield?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Nay.
Commissioner Nye?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, I'm talking to our city attorney at the same time. So for everybody on YouTube and all of you out here, we have denied their request. However, this now gets forwarded to the city council. And the city council, it's solely up to their discretion how they decide to vote. But we are recommending to the city council that it doesn't fit within our master plan. Has nothing to do with you guys, the landowner, strictly has to do with the rezone request and what sits in our master plan. Okay, do we have any discretionary items? Claire?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye.